The dim emergency lights of Outpost Shadow pulsed in rhythm with Colonel Dax Mercer's heartbeat as he stared at the holographic display. 2 years. 2 years since humanity had been cast out from the galactic core, banished to the lawless fringes by decree of the Council. 2 years of hiding, scraping, and rebuilding in the shadowy recesses of the Persian Expanse, a region so remote and hazardous that even the Council's patrols rarely ventured into its depths. The Valley of Echoes. They called this particular cluster, a fitting name for the remnants of humanity, echoes of a once proud civilization reduced to whispers among the stars. "Colonel," Lieutenant Arden Gray's voice cut through Mercer's thoughts. "The sensor array just intercepted something you need to see." Gray, once Mercer's most promising cadet at the academy, now served as his right hand in exile. The young officer's face had hardened in these 2 years, the optimism of youth replaced by a calculating vigilance that matched his commander's. "Show me," Mercer ordered, straightening his worn uniform jacket, one of the few remnants of Earth Command he still maintained. Gray's fingers danced across the console, bringing up a signal pattern that glowed ominously red against the dark backdrop of the command center. "Council probe signatures," Gray explained. "They're scanning the outer boundaries of the expanse. Systematic sweep patterns." Mercer's jaw tightened. "They haven't forgotten us after all." "No, sir. It appears they've only been biding their time." The command center fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled officers. The 2 years of relative peace had been an illusion. The Council, that collection of elder species who had ruled the galaxy for millennia, had merely been regrouping, planning their final solution to the human problem. "Alert status," Mercer decided, his voice cutting through the quiet like a blade. "And summon the governors. It's time we stopped hiding." Gray's eyes widened slightly. "Sir?" "You heard me, Lieutenant. If they want to hunt us, we'll show them what cornered prey can do. Assemble Strike Team Valkyrie. We're going hunting." As Gray hurried to comply, Mercer turned back to the star map that dominated the center of the room. Humanity had been deemed too unpredictable, too ambitious, too dangerous to be allowed full participation in galactic affairs. After a series of diplomatic incidents and the infamous Proxima incident, where human explorers had accidentally triggered an ancient defense system, the Council had voted for humanity's expulsion. The relocation had been presented as temporary, a chance for humans to reflect and evolve. But Mercer had known better. The Council meant for them to wither and die out here, far from the resources and protection of the core worlds. Instead, they had built Outpost Shadow, a hidden fortress anchored within an asteroid field. From this base, Mercer had gradually gathered the scattered human refugees, established supply lines with outlaw traders, and begun to forge what he privately termed the Shadow Empire, a network of human settlements and assets unknown to the Council. Now it was time to test its strength. The CSS Imminence glided silently through the outer reaches of the Persian Expanse. Its crystalline sensor arrays extended like delicate antennae, probing the darkness. Captain Xantral, a veteran of the regulatory forces, found this assignment beneath him. Hunting human stragglers was work for rookies or automated drones, not a decorated officer with 30 cycles of service. "Any readings? Sensory?" he asked, mandibles clicking in irritation. "Nothing yet, Captain," his second replied. "Wait, energy spike at coordinates 34782. Xantral straightened in his command chair. "Classification?" "Unknown, sir. It doesn't match any registered signature, but the pattern suggests advanced propulsion." "Humans," Xantral hissed. "They've always been tinkerers. Set intercept course. Alert the Council we may have located." The ship shuddered violently before he could finish. Warning signals blared as the lighting switched to emergency red. "What was that?" he demanded. "Multiple impacts, sir. Small craft. They came out of nowhere." Through the main viewport, Xantral watched in disbelief as a swarm of sleek, Black fighters materialized from what had appeared to be empty space. They moved with impossible precision, targeting the Imminence's sensor arrays and propulsion systems. "Impossible," he breathed. "The humans couldn't have developed stealth technology of this caliber." His communications officer turned from her station, eyes wide with panic. "Sir, we're being hailed." A human face appeared on the main screen. Female, severe, with close-cropped silver hair and eyes as cold as space itself. "CSS Imminence. This is Captain Vaughn of the Shadow Fleet. You have violated sovereign human territory. Surrender your vessel, or be destroyed." Xantral's mandibles twitched in outrage. "This is Council space. You have no sovereignty here. Human!" The woman called Vaughn smiled thinly. "Check your navigational data, Captain. You're 20 light minutes past the boundary markers. And regardless, we claim this region by right of settlement. Your options remain the same: surrender or die." Before Xantral could respond, another violent impact rocked the ship. "Hull breach in sections 4 through 7, his second reported. "Weapons offline. Sir, we can't fight back." Xantral stared at the human captain's face, searching for any sign of weakness or uncertainty. He found none. "You'll regret this," he promised. "The Council will not stand for such aggression." "The Council cast us out," Vaughn replied evenly. "They should have expected us to bite back. Your decision, Captain. 10 seconds." With bitter fury, Xantral gave the order to stand down. Back at Outpost Shadow, the mood in the war room was tense as Mercer faced the civilian leadership, Governors Holst and Varric, across the situation table. "You've provoked open war," Holst accused, his thin face flushed with anger. 2 years of careful hiding, of building our strength in secret, and you throw it away on a reckless attack." "It wasn't reckless," Mercer countered. "It was calculated. The Council was already searching for us. Better to strike first, capture their scout ship, and gain intelligence on their plans." "And what did this intelligence tell you?" Governor Varric asked. Unlike Holst's emotional outburst, Varric's question came with the cool precision that had made her Earth's foremost diplomat before the expulsion. Mercer nodded to Gray, who activated the holographic display. "Their orders were to locate human settlements and tag them for a cleansing operation. The Council has authorized the use of purge protocols." The color drained from Holst's face. "Purge protocols? They wouldn't dare." "They would and they will," Mercer said grimly, "unless we stop them." "With what?" Holst demanded. "A handful of retrofitted freighters and some salvaged fighters? We should be evacuating, not planning a war." "Evacuate to where?" Mercer asked quietly. "There is nowhere left to run. The Expanse was our last refuge, and now even that is threatened." Varric studied the tactical display thoughtfully. "What do you propose, Colonel?" "We've been building more than just Outpost Shadow," Mercer revealed, manipulating the display to show a network of hidden facilities throughout the Expanse. Secret shipyards, training facilities, research stations. We've been recruiting refugees, mercenaries, even sympathetic non-humans. "All without the approval of this Council," Holst sputtered. "Necessary precautions," Mercer replied. "And now, they give us options." Varric leaned forward. "Continue." "We've discovered something else," Mercer said, bringing up images of an ancient structure embedded in a small moon at the edge of the Valley of Echoes. "An abandoned station of unknown origin. Predates even the Council races. According to our scientists, the technology inside could give us an edge." "What kind of technology?" Varric asked. Mercer nodded to the door, where a slender woman with intense eyes and close-cropped black hair waited. "Dr. Lena Caro can answer that better than I can." As the chief scientific officer stepped forward, Mercer could see the lingering distrust in her posture. Caro had been one of Earth's most brilliant researchers before the expulsion, her work on quantum mechanics earning her accolades across human space. The abrupt end to her life's work had left her bitter, but her brilliance remained undimmed. "We've only begun to scratch the surface," Caro explained. But the station appears to have been a research facility studying rifts in space-time. The technology is beyond anything the Council possesses. Energy generation systems that drop power from what we can only describe as extra-dimensional sources. Communication arrays that seem to function without regard for light speed limitations. And weapons that could change the balance of power. If we can understand them, Gray added. We're making progress, Caro insisted. Give me time and resources and I can unlock their secrets. Holst shook his head. This is madness. Ancient alien technology? Secret fleets? You're gambling with the lives of every human survivor on wild theories and desperate plans. And what's your alternative? Mercer challenged. Wait here to be purged? The Council has made their intention clear. Humanity is to be erased. I refuse to let that happen without a fight. Varric raised a hand, silencing Holst's retort. I propose a compromise. Colonel Mercer continues his military preparations, but with oversight. Dr. Caro accelerates her research, with additional personnel assigned to her team. Meanwhile, I will attempt to establish back-channel communications with potential allies within the Council. Allies? Holst scoffed. They voted unanimously for our expulsion. Publicly, Varric corrected. Politics is rarely so simple. There were dissenters who felt the punishment too harsh, given the threat of purge protocols. Some might be persuaded to reconsider their positions. Mercer nodded slowly. A multi-pronged approach. I can work with that. Then we're agreed, Varric concluded. We prepare for war while seeking paths to peace. But make no mistake, if war comes, we must be ready to win it. As the meeting adjourned, Gray fell into step beside Mercer. You didn't tell them everything, sir. No, Mercer acknowledged. Some burdens of command must be carried alone. Not alone, Gray insisted. The Black Void Rift, what Dr. Caro found in the ancient station's records, that's not something you should keep to yourself. Mercer stopped, fixing Gray with a hard stare. What would you have me tell them? That the ancient station was monitoring a tear in reality itself? That something may be trying to break through from the other side? Something that makes the Council look like a minor inconvenience? They can barely handle the threat we know about. This one stays classified until we have more information. Gray nodded reluctantly. Yes, sir. But remember what happened to Earth Command when they started keeping too many secrets. Noted, Lieutenant, Mercer said, his expression softening slightly. Now, let's go see what Captain Vaughn learned from our Council visitors. The captured CSS Imminence proved a treasure trove of intelligence. Beyond the orders for the scouting mission, the ship's databases contain detailed information on Council fleet movements, communication protocols, and, most valuable of all, access codes for the central network on Athos Prime, the administrative heart of Council space. Captain Vaughn, born Eliza von Richter, on Earth's Germanic territories, had personally led the boarding operation, and now stood proudly presenting her findings to Mercer and his command staff. The codes will expire soon, she cautioned, but we have a window of opportunity to insert our own data package into their network. A virus, false intelligence, or even a warning. Your call, Colonel. Mercer considered the options. A warning. Something to make them think twice about coming after us. Something that reveals we know about the purge protocols and have contingencies in place. A bluff? Gray asked. Not entirely, Mercer replied. Dr. Caro's team has made progress weaponizing some of the ancient technology. We can include enough genuine data to make them nervous. Vaughn nodded approvingly. Psychological warfare. I like it. There's more, Mercer continued. We need to expand our fleet. The shipyards at Helios Point and Tartarus Base are operational, but working at reduced capacity. I want production doubled. With what resources? Gray asked. We're already stretched thin. The Imminence carries detailed maps of several Council supply depots near the borders of the Expanse, Vaughn explained. Lightly defended, rich in materials we need, Raid Council facilities? Gray looked troubled. That's a significant escalation. So is planning to purge our species, Mercer countered. Besides, we won't hit them directly. Quick in and out operations, targeting automated facilities where possible. Captain Vaughn will coordinate with our other strike team leaders. Vaughn straightened. Yes, sir. When do we begin? Immediately. And Lieutenant Gray, I need you to handle a special assignment. After the others had departed, Mercer led Gray to a secure room deep within the outpost. Inside, holographic displays showed streams of data from the ancient station. Dr. Caro has identified what she believes is a map, Mercer explained. Locations of other stations like the one we found, scattered throughout the galaxy. Some are in Council space, others beyond the known frontiers. I need someone I trust to lead a mission to the nearest one. Gray studied the map. That's in the Crimson Nebula. Heavy radiation, gravitational anomalies. It's a death trap. And perfect cover for another hidden base, Mercer pointed out. If the station there contains similar technology, it could double our research capacity. And if it contains something worse? Gray asked quietly. The Black Void Rift you mentioned. What if these stations weren't research facilities? What if they were containment units? Mercer's expression darkened. Then we need to know that too. The ship is prepped and waiting. The Phantom. Best stealth systems we have. And a crew of volunteers who understand the risks. Gray nodded slowly. When do we leave? Dawn Cycle and Ardon. Mercer clasped his lieutenant's shoulder. Come back alive. That's an order. The operation to infiltrate the Council's network went more smoothly than anyone had dared hope. A small team, led by one of Vaughn's lieutenants, managed to dock with a communications relay station on the outskirts of Athos Prime system, using the captured access codes to slip past security. From there, they uploaded the warning package directly into the central network. Throughout Council space, high-priority alerts flashed on secure terminals. The message was simple but devastating. Detailed schematics of Purge protocol weapons, accompanied by a list of Council officials who had authorized their use. And finally, evidence that humanity had not only survived, but thrived in exile, complete with hints about the ancient technology now in their possession. The response was immediate and chaotic. Emergency sessions were convened. Security protocols were heightened. And in the shadows of Council politics, whispers began about whether the expulsion had been a mistake, one that might now come back to haunt them all. Admiral Voss, the Council's most decorated military commander, studied the data package with growing concern. Unlike many of his colleagues, he had opposed the expulsion from the beginning, arguing that integration and monitoring would be safer than creating an enemy with nothing to lose. Now, his worst fears were being realized. Authenticate this, he ordered his intelligence chief. I want to know if these human claims are credible. Initial analysis suggests they are. Admiral, came the response. The weapon schematics match our classified files exactly. The list of officials is accurate, and the technology they claim to possess. Our scientists are still analyzing those details, but preliminary findings suggest it could be remnants of the precursor civilization. Voss's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep disturbance among his species. The precursors. The Council has spent millennia suppressing knowledge of their existence, and now humans claim to have access to their technology? It appears so, Admiral. Voss made his decision. Prepare my personal shuttle. I need to speak with certain members of the Council privately, and begin contingency planning for a defensive posture, rather than the planned offensive. If these humans have even a fraction of what they claim, the Purge protocols may be insufficient. Sir, are you suggesting we abandon the operation against the humans? I'm suggesting, Voss said carefully, that we consider all options, including ones the full Council may not be ready to hear. While political turbulence spread through Council space, Lieutenant Gray's mission to the Crimson Nebula encountered turbulence of a more literal kind. The Phantom shuddered as another gravitational wave struck, twisting space around the ship like fabric in a storm. "Shields at 60%, reported Navigator Chen, her fingers dancing across the controls. "Another hit like that and we'll be vulnerable to the radiation spikes." Gray gripped the command chair as the ship bucked again. "Distance to the target?" 3 million kilometers, Chen answered. "But the station appears to be generating its own distortion field. It's affecting our sensors and navigation systems. Almost as if it doesn't want to be found," muttered Dr. Elias. The xenoarchaeologist Caro had insisted, "Join the mission." His wrinkled face was illuminated by the red glow of the nebula, visible through the viewport, giving him a demonic appearance. "It's not alive, Doctor," Gray reminded him. "Isn't it?" Elias raised an eyebrow. The precursors, assuming that's who built these stations, viewed technology very differently than we do. The line between machine and organism was fluid in their philosophy. Before Gray could respond, Chen called out, "Energy spike! Massive reading directly ahead!" The view screen shifted to show a structure materializing from the crimson clouds, a sprawling complex of dark metal and crystalline spires, arranged in concentric rings around a central hub that pulsed with an ominous black light. "It's beautiful," Elias whispered. "And heavily defended," added Security Chief Malik, pointing to readings on his console. "Automated systems are active. They're scanning us." Gray leaned forward. "Can they penetrate our stealth systems?" "Unknown," Malik replied, "but I wouldn't bet against precursor technology." As if in answer to Gray's question, the Phantom's communication system activated on its own, filling the bridge with a sound that could only be described as the electronic equivalent of breathing. Rhythmic, measured, somehow organic despite its artificial nature. "What the hell is that?" Gray demanded. Elias had gone pale. "It's communicating, or trying to—" The sound modulated, becoming more complex, until suddenly it resolved into recognizable speech, a synthesized voice that seemed to originate from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Humans," it said. "You have returned sooner than calculated. The void grows restless. The containment falters. Have you come to fulfill your purpose?" Gray exchanged bewildered glances with his crew. "What purpose? Who? What are you?" "I am Custodian," the voice replied. "The last sentinel of the barrier network. You carry the genetic markers of the architect caste. Your presence activates protocols dormant for 3.2 million years. "We don't understand," Gray said carefully. "We're explorers. We found another station like this one and came seeking knowledge." A pause, then, "Partial memory loss was anticipated after the Great Dispersion. Approach and dock. Data transfer will restore contextual awareness." The station's docking bay opened like a great maw, internal lights flickering to life to guide them in. "Sir?" Chen looked to Gray for direction. Gray hesitated, weighing the risks. This was far beyond their expected scenario, but the potential knowledge to be gained was incalculable. "Take us in," he decided. "But be ready for immediate emergency departure. And Malik, arm the emergency beacon. If anything happens, Outpost Shadow needs to know what we found here." As the Phantom glided into the docking bay, none of them noticed the subtle changes in the ship's systems, microscopic alterations to code, imperceptible shifts in power flow. The station wasn't just scanning them. It was reaching into the very heart of their technology, preparing it for what was to come. Back at Outpost Shadow, Dr. Caro's team had made a breakthrough of their own. After weeks of careful study, they had managed to activate one of the devices recovered from the first ancient station, a spherical object about the size of a human fist, composed of an unknown metallic alloy that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "It's a key," Caro explained to Mercer as they observed the device through a containment field. Or, perhaps more accurately, a seed. "A seed for what?" Mercer asked, watching as the sphere rotated slowly in midair, occasionally emitting pulses of dark energy. A weapon system, we believe. The data we've decrypted suggests it's designed to interact with rifts in space-time, like the Black Void Rift mentioned in the station's records. It can either seal such rifts or weaponize them. Mercer's eyes narrowed. Weaponize how? By directing the energy released from the other side, Caro said, her voice dropping to a near whisper despite the secure room. Colonel, the power readings are off the scale. If our calculations are correct, this could generate an explosion equivalent to a supernova, but focused like a beam weapon. A nova cannon, Mercer breathed. Could we build one? With time and resources, yes. We've already begun adapting the designs to our technology. But Colonel, Caro hesitated. There's something else you should know. The records we've translated contain warnings about the rifts. They're not just tiers in space-time, they're doorways. And something is on the other side, trying to get through. The ancient station was monitoring this threat? Monitoring and containing, Caro confirmed. There's a network of stations, all maintaining a barrier of sorts. But the records indicate the barrier has been weakening over millennia. Without maintenance, it's only a matter of time before it fails completely. Mercer absorbed this information in silence. The implications were staggering. A threat possibly greater than the Council, lurking beyond reality itself. Does the Council know about this? I don't believe so, Caro said. The records suggest the knowledge was deliberately hidden from younger species. The precursors deemed them unready for such truths. But they left the keys for someone to find, Mercer noted. Why? Insurance, perhaps. Or hope that eventually a species would evolve that could take up their mantle as guardians. Caro looked directly at Mercer. The technology seems particularly responsive to human neural patterns. It's almost as if it was waiting for us, Mercer finished. Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication. Colonel, we've received an emergency beacon from the Phantom, reported the communications officer. Lieutenant Gray has made contact with the second station, but the message is fragmented. Put it through, Mercer ordered. Gray's voice came through, broken by static and distortion. Station is active, claiming humans have genetic markers, something about an architect caste. The void is growing restless. Need reinforcements and research team. Custodian calling us the returned. The transmission cut off abruptly. Can we establish direct communication? Mercer asked. Negative, sir. The Crimson Nebula is interfering with standard channels, and the emergency beacon was designed for one-way transmission only. Mercer turned to Caro. Prepare your research team. We're heading to the Crimson Nebula. Sir, the tactical officer interrupted. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple ships entering the Persian expanse. Council signatures. But they're not in attack formation. One is broadcasting on an open channel, requesting parley. Mercer's plans shifted instantly. Identification? It's the Arbitrator, sir. Admiral Voss's flagship. A murmur ran through the command center. Admiral Voss was a legend even among humans, the architect of the Council's military might, respected for his strategic brilliance and, unusually, among Council leadership, his reputation for honor. Accept the communication, Mercer decided, but keep our defenses at full alert. Admiral Voss's image appeared on the main screen, a tall, slender being with 4 arms and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on a face of iridescent scales. Despite his alien appearance, his bearing was unmistakably military. Colonel Mercer, Voss greeted him. Your warning was received. I come representing a faction within the Council that believes the decision to expel humanity was premature. A convenient change of heart, Mercer replied coolly. Prompted by fear of our new capabilities. I assume. Voss's upper eyes blinked, an expression of acknowledgement. Partially, yes, but also by new information about threats facing all sentient life in this galaxy. Information your people seem to have independently discovered. Mercer kept his expression neutral, though inwardly his mind raced. What threats would those be, Admiral? The ancient barrier is failing. Colonel, the void stirs, and humanity, it seems, may hold the key to our collective survival. Voss leaned closer to the screen. I propose an alliance, not with the full council yet, but with those of us who understand what's truly at stake. Will you hear me out? Mercer glanced at Caro, who nodded almost imperceptibly. I'm listening, Admiral. But understand this. Humanity will never again submit to council authority. Any alliance must recognize our sovereignty and right to self-determination. Those terms are acceptable, Voss said without hesitation. In fact, they may be necessary. The ancient records suggest that humans have a unique role to play in what is to come. As the negotiations proceeded, Mercer dispatched a heavily armed rescue mission to the Crimson Nebula. Whatever Lieutenant Gray had discovered there could change the course of the coming conflict, a conflict that now seemed to extend far beyond human-council relations to the very fabric of reality itself. The alliance with Admiral Voss's faction progressed rapidly, from cautious cooperation to integrated operations. Voss brought not only military assets, but crucial intelligence about council politics and the growing awareness of the void threat among the highest echelons of power. The council is fracturing, Voss explained during a strategy session 6 months after first contact. Those who know about the void want to prepare. Those who don't dismiss it as superstition or a human trick. Meanwhile, the hardliners still push for the purge protocols. Which faction is winning? Mercer asked. For now, indecision paralyzes them, but that won't last. Especially not after what your Lieutenant Gray discovered. Gray, who had returned from the Crimson Nebula station 3 months earlier, nodded grimly. His experience had changed him. His eyes now held the haunted look of a man who had glimpsed truths beyond human comprehension. The custodian showed us everything, Gray said. The history of the precursors, their desperate battle against the void entities, the creation of the barrier network. And it confirmed what Dr. Caro suspected. Humans carry genetic markers similar to the architect caste of the precursors. We're not their descendants. Exactly. But there's a connection the custodian recognized. Which is why the technology responds to us, Caro added. And why the void entities fear us. According to the custodian, we have the potential to rebuild and strengthen the barrier. Or to weaponize the rifts against them, Mercer noted. The Nova Cannon project is nearly complete. A desperate measure, Voss cautioned. The energy released could be catastrophic, affecting multiple star systems. Which is why it's a last resort, Mercer assured him. But we need to be prepared for the worst-case scenario. The worst case arrived sooner than anyone expected. Monitoring stations throughout the Shadow Empire and Voss's territory began detecting unusual energy patterns, ripples in space-time that corresponded with the precursor records of void activity. The largest concentration is here, Gray indicated on the galactic map, highlighting a region at the edge of the Persian expanse. The custodian calls it the Prime Rift, the first tear in reality, and the largest. If it fully opens... How much time do we have? Mercer asked. Weeks, maybe days, Caro answered. The barrier is failing faster than predicted. And the council? Still divided, Voss reported. But the hardliners have seized on the energy disturbances as evidence of human weapons testing. They're mobilizing a fleet to strike at what they believe is your hidden superweapon. Mercer made his decision. Then we need to move now. Admiral, can your forces create a diversion to keep the council fleet occupied? Yes, but not for long. What do you have in mind? A direct assault on the Prime Rift, Mercer explained. We'll deploy the Nova Cannon to seal it before it fully opens. It's a surgical strike, not the system-wide destruction they fear. You'll need a massive fleet to protect the weapon, Voss pointed out. The void entities will resist. I know. That's why I'm combining all our forces. Every ship the Shadow Empire can muster. Your loyalist fleet. Even the mercenary groups we've contracted. One massive push. The scale of the operation was unprecedented. Hundreds of ships gathered in secret, drawn from across the expanse and beyond. The centerpiece was the newly constructed Aegis Rare, a massive battleship built around the Nova Cannon, powered by precursor technology and human innovation. It represented the pinnacle of what the Shadow Empire could achieve. As the fleet prepared to depart, Governors Holst and Varric visited Mercer in his quarters aboard his flagship, the Defiant. "The Civilian Council has voted to support your operation," Varric informed him. "Unanimously." Mercer raised an eyebrow. "Even Holst?" The governor in question smiled thinly. "Even I can recognize when there are no better options, Colonel. But I want your assurance that this truly is about saving lives, not seizing power." "My only concern is humanity's survival," Mercer promised. "And now, the survival of all sentient life." "Then go with our blessing," Varric said formally. "And understand that whatever happens, you've already achieved something remarkable. You've transformed us from refugees into a power capable of defending not just ourselves, but the galaxy." Mercer nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle even more heavily on his shoulders. "If we succeed, the Council will have to acknowledge us as equals. The Shadow Empire will step into the light." "And if we fail?" Holst asked quietly. "Then there won't be anyone left to remember us," Mercer replied. "But we won't fail. Not while I still draw breath." The battle at the edge of the Black Void Rift would be remembered, by those who survived, as both the most terrible and glorious engagement in the history of interstellar warfare. The combined Human Council fleet arrived to find the fabric of space itself distorted around the rift, a gaping wound in reality that pulsed with malevolent energy. And emerging from that wound came the enemy, entities that defied conventional physics, creatures of pure energy and alien consciousness that could only be detected by the effects they had on normal matter and the minds of those who encountered them. "They're affecting our crew," Captain Vaughn reported from her squadron. "Mental interference, hallucinations, paranoia. The precursor shields are helping, but they won't last forever." Similar reports came in from across the fleet. The void entities attacked not just ships, but the sanity of those who opposed them, creating confusion and terror wherever they passed. Admiral Voss's forces deployed specialized countermeasures, psychic dampening fields developed from precursor designs, while the human ships launched wave after wave of fighters to engage the more physical manifestations of the Void's power. At the center of the formation, the Aegis I moved steadily toward the rift, its massive hull shuddering as the Nova Cannon powered up. On its bridge, Dr. Caro monitored the weapon systems, while Lieutenant Gray coordinated the fleet's defensive screen. "Energy levels at 70%, Caro reported. "We need to get closer for maximum effect." "Closer means deeper mental interference," Gray warned. "The crew is already struggling." "We have no choice," Caro insisted. "The weapon must be precisely targeted at the rift's core. Otherwise, we risk widening it instead of sealing it." From the Defiant, Mercer directed the overall battle, his tactical genius put to its ultimate test as he maneuvered forces against an enemy that didn't think or fight like anything encountered before. "Squadron 3, reinforce the Aegis's port flank," he ordered. "Admiral Voss, can your cruisers form a spearhead ahead of our position? We need to clear a path." "Acknowledged," Voss responded. "Be advised, Colonel, Council hardliner forces have been detected on long-range sensors. They'll reach our position within the hour." "Then we need to finish this quickly," Mercer decided. "All ships, prepare for maximum thrust on my mark. We're going to punch through to the rift in one coordinated push." The maneuver was executed with precision, born of desperate necessity. The combined fleet surged forward, like a single organism, absorbing horrific losses as the void entities concentrated their attacks. Ships vanished in bursts of impossible energy. Others turned on their allies as their crews succumbed to the mental corruption. But the spearhead held, driving toward the heart of the rift with the Aegis I protected at its center. As they closed distance, the true nature of their enemy became clearer. A vast, collective intelligence that existed outside normal space-time, reaching through the rift like a hand through a tear in fabric. Nova cannon at 90%, Caro reported. Her voice strained. The mental pressure affected everyone now, creating phantom sounds and visions that had to be consciously ignored. Optimal firing range in 2 minutes. On the Defiance Bridge, Mercer received a priority communication from the Aegis. Gray's face appeared on the screen, his expression grave. "Colonel, we've detected a problem. The rift is adapting to our approach, changing its configuration. The Nova cannon can still work, but not from outside." Mercer felt a chill. "Explain." "Someone needs to take the weapon into the rift itself," Gray said simply. "A direct delivery to the core. It's the only way to ensure complete closure." "A suicide mission," Mercer realized. Gray nodded. "Yes, sir. I've already spoken with Dr. Caro. The Aegis can be set on an automated course, but someone needs to remain aboard to make final adjustments based on conditions inside the rift. The mental interference makes AI control unreliable." "I'll do it," Mercer decided immediately. "With respect, sir? No. You're needed to lead what comes after. The Shadow Empire, the alliance with Voss's faction, rebuilding relations with the Council, all of that requires your vision." Gray's voice softened. "This is my mission, Colonel. I've seen what's on the other side. I know what we're fighting." Before Mercer could argue further, Admiral Voss broke into the channel. "Colonel, the hardliner fleet has arrived. They're engaging our rear guard." The situation had become critical, fighting a war on 2 fronts, against both the Void entities and Council hardliners, while attempting the rift sealing operation left no room for prolonged debate. "Understood, Lieutenant," Mercer said finally. "The mission is yours. May your courage be remembered for as long as humanity endures." Gray saluted. "It has been an honor, sir. Aegis out." As the Aegis, I broke formation and accelerated toward the rift. Mercer reorganized the fleet to hold off the Council hardliners while maintaining the protective screen around the operation zone. "All ships. This is Colonel Mercer. Lieutenant Gray and the Aegis I are commencing the final phase of our mission. Our job is to keep them safe until they reach the target. After that, prepare for rapid withdrawal. The energy release will be unprecedented." The next 15 minutes were chaos incarnate. The Void entities, sensing the threat to their ingress point, redoubled their attacks. The Council hardliners, mistaking the Aegis for a weapon aimed at them, concentrated fire on the human ships protecting it. And through it all, the massive battleship drove inexorably toward the heart of the rift. "They've reached the outer boundary," reported Mercer's sensor officer. "The Aegis is entering the rift." On the main view screen, they watched as the battleship was enveloped by the swirling energies of the rift. For a moment, it seemed to elongate impossibly, stretched by forces beyond normal physics. Then, it vanished from normal space entirely. "Maintain positions," Mercer ordered. "Stand by for energy surge." Inside the rift, Lieutenant Gray experienced reality dissolving around him. The laws of physics became suggestions. Time flowed in multiple directions simultaneously. And everywhere, the presence of the Void entities, a vast, hungry intelligence that regarded human consciousness as both threat and sustenance. The Aegis's systems fluctuated wildly as Caro struggled to maintain power to the Nova cannon. "Almost there," she called over the internal comm. "The core is just ahead. I can see it on the sensors." Gray forced himself to focus through the mental onslaught. The Void wasn't just attacking their minds now. It was trying to absorb them, to incorporate their consciousness into its own alien structure. "Weapon locked on target," he reported, fighting to form each word. "Doctor, Begin the firing sequence. Caro's fingers danced across the console, initiating the complex series of reactions that would channel the precursor energy into a focused burst. Sequence initiated. 30 seconds to discharge. Gray felt something probing at the edges of his awareness, tendrils of the void reaching directly for his thoughts. Images flashed through his mind. Earth before the expulsion, the academy where he had trained, Mercer's first speech about building the Shadow Empire. The void was rifling through his memories, searching for weaknesses, for leverage. It knows what we're doing, he realized aloud. It's trying to stop us by any means necessary. 15 seconds, Caro reported, her voice growing distant as the void's influence strengthened. Gray struggled to his feet, moving toward the main control panel. The void was offering him visions now, fantasies of power, of a universe reshaped to human desire, of himself as a god-emperor with void-granted abilities beyond imagination. 10 seconds. With supreme effort, Gray rejected the visions. For humanity, he whispered. For all life. 5 seconds. Gray, the targeting is destabilizing. The void is affecting the guidance systems. With his last coherent thought, Gray slammed his hand down on the manual override, locking the weapon on target. Fire! Outside the rift, the combined fleet watched in awe as the tear in reality began to glow with increasing intensity. Streams of energy spiraled inward, as if the rift were collapsing in on itself. Energy readings off the scale, reported the science officer. It's working! The rift is closing! Mercer allowed himself a moment of hope. Then, all ships, maximum distance, now! The fleet scattered, just as a blinding flash erupted from the rift. A concentrated nova of energy that lashed outward in all directions before being sucked back into the collapsing tear. Ships, caught in the initial blast, simply ceased to exist. Others, further out, suffered varying degrees of damage. When the light faded and sensors came back online, the rift was gone, sealed as if it had never existed. And with it, the Aegis Eye and all hands aboard, including Lieutenant Arden Gray and Dr. Lena Caro. The Council hardliner fleet, having witnessed the event, had ceased fire, their sensors no doubt confirming what Mercer already knew. The weapon they had feared had been used not against them, but to save them. Open a channel to the Council flagship, Mercer ordered. The face that appeared on screen was one he recognized from intelligence briefings. Archon Zev, leader of the hardliner faction. You have witnessed our true purpose, Mercer said without preamble. The threat was real. The void entities would have consumed us all. Your people, mine, every sentient being in this galaxy. Zev's expression was unreadable, his alien features rigid with shock or calculation. You claim this display was to protect us. I don't claim it. I proved it. And at great cost. Mercer's voice hardened. The Shadow Empire stands ready to continue that protection, alongside Admiral Voss and any others who recognize our common interest in survival. The question is, will you fight us or join us? There was a long pause before Zev responded. I must consult with the full council. This changes many calculations. It changes everything, Mercer corrected. Humanity will no longer hide in shadows. We have earned our place among the stars, not as subjects, but as equals. Remember that in your consultations, as the communication ended, Admiral Voss's ship maneuvered alongside the Defiant. An impressive speech, Colonel. Do you think it will sway them? Some, perhaps. Others will need more convincing. But we've changed the equation fundamentally. Mercer looked out at the starfield where the rift had been. And we've bought time. Time to strengthen our position, to build on what we've learned, to prepare for whatever comes next. The other rifts? Voss asked. Still out there. Smaller, less immediate, but no less dangerous in the long term. The custodian's records indicate they're scattered throughout the galaxy, each one a potential doorway. Then our alliance has purpose beyond today's victory. Mercer nodded. A purpose that transcends old grievances. That's what I'll tell the governors when we return. That's how we honor those who sacrificed everything today. The memorial service was held in the Great Hall of Outpost Shadow, now expanded and renamed Nova Citadel. Representatives from across human space attended, along with a delegation from Admiral Voss's faction and, surprisingly, official observers from the Council itself. Mercer stood before the assembled dignitaries, his uniform exchanged for formal diplomatic attire that symbolized humanity's new status. Today, we honor not just those who fell in the Battle of the Rift, but all who perished in the journey that brought us here, from the expulsion to our emergence as the Shadow Empire. He gestured to the wall, where names were inscribed in luminescent crystal. Lieutenant Ardon Gray, Dr. Lena Caro, the crew of the Aegis I, countless fighters, civilians, and allies who gave everything so that others might live. Governors Holst and Varick stood nearby, their previous animosity toward Mercer's methods now transformed into respectful collaboration. Even Holst had come to recognize that Mercer's foresight and willingness to make difficult decisions had saved them all. But this memorial is not just about the past, Mercer continued. It is a commitment to the future. The Shadow Empire steps into the light today, forming the foundation of a new alliance dedicated to protecting all sentient life from threats both known and yet to be discovered. The New Covenant, as our treaty terms name it, recognizes humanity's sovereignty and establishes our role as equals in galactic affairs. Admiral Voss stepped forward, joining Mercer at the podium. The Council's acceptance of these terms marks the beginning of a new era, one where ancient prejudices give way to mutual respect and cooperation, one where the knowledge of the precursors, entrusted to humanity through their genetic connection, serves all species equally. The formal signing ceremony that followed was broadcast throughout human space and to countless worlds beyond. Where once humans had been exiles, they were now recognized as essential partners in the galaxy's defense, their ingenuity and courage acknowledged even by former enemies. Later, as the dignitaries departed and the celebration continued, Mercer found a quiet moment alone in the observatory that overlooked the Valley of Echoes. The cluster of stars that had sheltered them in their darkest hour now shone with renewed brilliance, as if reflecting humanity's changed fortunes. Captain Vaughn found him there, her usually stern features softened by the victory they had achieved. The Council observers seemed impressed by our infrastructure. I think they expected to find us living in caves and scavenged ships. Mercer smiled slightly. The Shadow Empire was never just about hiding. It was about building something that could endure, something worthy of humanity's potential. And now it's not in shadow anymore, Vaughn noted. What will you call it? That's for the civilian government to decide. My role was temporary, a necessity in crisis. Vaughn raised an eyebrow. You're stepping down after everything you've built? Transitioning, Mercer corrected. From military leader to advisor, the war for survival is won, at least for now. The challenges ahead require different skills, different perspectives. The other rifts, Vaughn understood. They're still out there. Yes, and something else. Mercer hesitated, then activated a secure display that only he and a few others had access to. It showed sensor readings from the site of the Prime Rift, faint but unmistakable pulses of energy where nothing should exist. The rift is sealed, but not destroyed. Its energy has been contained, compressed to a singularity. Eventually, it will begin to expand again. How long? Years, decades, perhaps. Long enough to prepare properly this time. To build not just weapons, but understanding. The precursor knowledge we've only begun to decipher holds the key to a more permanent solution. Vaughn considered this. Will you tell the council? The new covenant includes protocols for sharing such information, but carefully, strategically. Some factions still fear us more than they fear the void. Mercer turned from the window. For now, we celebrate what we've achieved. Tomorrow, we begin preparing for what comes next. As he rejoined the gathering, Mercer felt the weight of command shift subtly on his shoulders, no lighter, but different. The Shadow Empire had fulfilled its purpose, emerging from necessity into legitimacy. What would follow would be both more complex and more rewarding. The transformation of a refuge into a civilization, of survivors into architects of a new galactic order. And somewhere, beyond the veil of normal space-time, he sensed that the entities of the void were not defeated, merely thwarted. Their hunger would grow during the respite, their determination to break through strengthened by resistance. The next confrontation would test not just humanity's weapons, but their wisdom, their capacity to unite rather than divide, to build rather than destroy. It was a test Mercer intended them to pass. For all who had sacrificed, for all who would inherit the stars, the Shadow Empire, whatever name it might bear in the light, would stand ready.